Smith for a short time, and then Tammy Wynette hired me from that, from Cal. I was with her for a couple or 3 years. Tammy was a very, very sweet lady, just as good as gold. Her and her husband, George Ritchie, at the time, both really, really good to me. In fact, I think it was the drummer was taking care of the concessions, and he quit, and so they turned her concessions over to me. So, and I was getting 10% for keeping the inventory and all of that. And every other night, I would sell in the audience too. So I was actually doubling my salary. I felt very fortunate for them to think enough of me to do that for me when the other guys had been there a lot longer.
Right. I remember nights, because I was roommates with our merch guy for a couple of years, and he usually made more money than I did most of the time, I think.
Yeah, Tammy Wynette's concessions were, really good.
I imagine they were.
They sold like crazy. Then Dottie West hired me, and I was with Dottie for about 3 years too, and my son was 13, and my wife was having to raise him by herself because I was on the road so much that I decided to get off the road and freelance in Nashville, and I did that for about 5 years, and then moved to Branson and went to work with Mel Tillis.
Well, the thing that gets me too, I don't think anybody anymore realizes what a big family that really was.
Yeah.
I remember you were telling me about when Dottie called you, Tammy telling you, you'd be a fool not to take it, kind of deal. And
everybody was close. And actually, when I was with Jack Green and Janie Seeley, they would go out and visit everybody and all that. And they've always invited me, and my wife wanted to come out with them, Therefore, I got to meet all of these people, and I got to know them real well, and that's basically how I had the contacts to, thank God I was playing good enough to where I was pretty well sought after, so.
Right.
We toured England a bunch, most of Europe. Then we did go to Italy or Spain or France. All the rest of them we went to and played. I was over there when the Iranian crisis happened. Woo, that scared me because I just knew that they were going to freeze the airlines and all that.
I know you said, talking about being over there with Roger Miller and Charlie Pride. Who all would go over there? Was there like an opera package deal?
It would be like a package show, and Freddie Fender and Dolly went over there one time, and I was fortunate enough to get to sit beside her on the plane. And Dolly was a great lady too. Or is. She was just as sweet as she could be to me, and we sat there and talked the whole time.
I met her once in passing, just briefly, kind of thing. But everybody I've ever talked to, I've never heard a bad word about her.
Down home lady.
Yeah. So was that the first time you've been overseas? Tour like that, or did Jack?
Yeah, I had gone over there and played the Wimberley Festival with Jack and Jenny, and that was the first time I had. And I think we went twice just to do that one big show. That was a package show also. They'd have 10 or 15 acts. Back then, there was a lot of package shows going on all over there and over here too.
Jim Halsey was booking a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
No conversation with a guitar player is complete without talking about the Georgia Wildman himself, Mr. Jerry Reed, son. Eastbound and down.
Get in there, you silly son of...
And the water boy aside.
What's the matter with you, boy? You too stupid to do what your coach tells you?
Jerry was both an accomplished songwriter and innovative guitar player with his own brand of chicken picking. Of course, I had to ask Bobby if he had any good Jerry Reed stories. And
I didn't know him very well, but he was one of my heroes. The funniest thing that happened with me and Jerry is when Paul Franklin was playing steel guitar for him, I had wrote an instrumental that I called Inspiration. He inspired me to write the thing, and it's the Jerry Reed style and the whole works, and I laid a little track down on and gave it to Paul to pitch to Jerry to see if he would like to cut it for me. You know, he played it for Jerry, and Jerry said, "Wow," said, that's really good." I said, "I really like that." He said, "But by the time I'd learned it, I could be wrote one just like it."
That's really good.
I thought that's a good answer. And how true.
Who were your favorites when you were a kid like that? When you were on those having those jams over at Shelley's?
Actually, I always liked George Jones. In fact, I met George when I was 11 years old. He had a club in Houston. My mom and daddy took me out there because I loved his singing, you know. So my daddy introduced me to him and told him that I was a guitar player. His guitar player and him got in almost a fist fight. And so he fired him, and he came over to the table where Mom and Daddy and me were sitting. He said, "Son, you got your guitar with you?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Go get it. You're gonna be my guitar player the rest of the night." And I already knew how to play White Lightning and all them old songs on, you know, play lead on them, you know, because I was such a fan. And that was my first experience with George. And later on, when I was working with Jack Green and Jeannie Seeley, we were doing one of those big package shows. I was headed to the back door to go back out to the buses. About the time I reached for the door, swung open, and there stood George Jones. And he looked at me and he said, "Bobby?" And I said, "Yeah." I couldn't believe he remembered me because I was a little kid. You know? So I must have made some kind of impression on him. But he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm working with Jack Green and Jeannie Seeley now." I said, "Oh, they hired me and moved to Nashville and working with them." And he said, "Well, I always knew you was going to do something, you know." So that was a unique thing, you know. He was known to drink a lot and all that. And
yeah, that is saying something. He remembered and recognized you from a kid like that.
I know it. You know, it's something else. I
Got to be around him a little bit. I really liked him. He was real friendly, real funny.
I always liked him. He was always nice with me every time I was seen him. You know.
I know I've heard stories down through the years of being MacArthur being one of them. Said, "Yeah, I tell you what, Bobby was in town more than 3 weeks. People around Nashville started getting nervous, wondering when he was going back on the road."